Most people spend their entire lives chasing happiness but never actually find it. A philosopher from 1930 figured out why, and his answer is brutally simple. In 1930, Bertrand Russell wrote The Conquest of Happiness. Russell wasn't a self-help guru. He was one of the most brilliant philosophers and mathematicians of his time, and yet he dedicated an entire book to a question most philosophers ignore. How do you actually become happy? What makes this book remarkable is that Russell didn't rely on abstract theory. He observed real people, analyzed real behavior, and identified specific patterns that make people miserable and specific habits that make them happy. Nearly a century later, his insights are more relevant than ever. Russell's first major insight on happiness comes from excessive self-focus. When you're constantly analyzing yourself, judging yourself, worrying about what others think of you, you become trapped in your own head. And that prison is miserable. He called this the tyranny of the ego. The more you think about yourself, the more problems you find. You start obsessing over your flaws, your failures, your anxieties. You become your own worst enemy. Russell believed that happy people are not obsessed with themselves, they're genuinely interested in the world outside. Think about the last time you felt genuinely good. Chances are, you weren't sitting around analyzing your feelings. You were absorbed in something, a conversation, a project, a moment. That's Russell's point. Happiness comes from losing yourself in external interests, not from endless self-examination. If you're finding this valuable, subscribe to the channel. We break down timeless philosophy and psychology that actually applies to modern life. Links to the full text and further reading are in the description below. Russell identified what he called zest as essential to happiness. Zest is that feeling of genuine interest and enthusiasm for life. It's not forced positivity. It's authentic curiosity about the world, people, ideas, and experiences. Without zest, even pleasant experiences feel empty. You might have a good job, a comfortable life, all the basics covered, but if you lack that spark of genuine interest, you'll feel hollow. Russell argued that zest can't be manufactured through willpower alone. It emerges when you engage with things that genuinely matter to you. Modern culture often kills zest by promoting cynicism and detachment. Being too enthusiastic is seen as naive. Caring too much is seen as weakness. But Russell would say that this protective numbness is exactly what makes people miserable. Zest requires vulnerability, being willing to care about something even if it might disappoint you. Russell also emphasized affection, not romantic love specifically, but genuine warmth and connection with other people. He believed that humans are fundamentally social creatures, and isolation breeds unhappiness. But he wasn't talking about superficial social connections. He meant real affection, caring about others and being cared for in return. This doesn't require a huge circle of friends. Even a few deep relationships where you genuinely matter to someone and they matter to you can make the difference between happiness and despair. Russell warned against emotional self-sufficiency as an ideal. The idea that you shouldn't need anyone, that depending on others is weakness. He saw this as a trap. Happy people allow themselves to love and be loved. They accept the risk that comes with affection, knowing it's worth it. One of Russell's sharpest observations: competition makes people miserable. Not the healthy kind of competition where you challenge yourself. The toxic kind where you're constantly measuring yourself against others, always trying to prove you're better, smarter, richer, more successful. This kind of competition is endless. There's always someone ahead of you, always someone doing better. You can never win because the goal keeps moving. And even if you do win temporarily, it doesn't bring satisfaction, it just raises the bar for what counts as success. Russell argued that happy people measure success internally. They focus on their own growth, their own values, their own standards. They don't need external validation because they're not performing for an audience. They're living according to what actually matters to them, not what impresses others. Social media is the perfect example of toxic competition. Everyone's curating their highlight reel. You're comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's carefully edited performance. Russell would say this is a guaranteed path to misery. You're trapped in a game you can't win, measuring yourself by standards that don't even reflect reality. Russell also believed that meaningful work is essential to happiness, not drudgery. Not work you hate just to pay bills, but work that engages your abilities and contributes something you care about. He noticed that people who are deeply absorbed in constructive work, building something, solving problems, creating value, are generally happier than people who drift through life without clear purpose. Work gives structure, meaning, and a sense of accomplishment. It's not about productivity for its own sake. It's about contributing to something larger than yourself. But Russell was careful to distinguish meaningful work from workaholism. Working obsessively to escape yourself or prove your worth is just another form of self-absorption. Healthy work is balanced. It's something you choose because it matters, not something you're compulsively driven to do out of fear or insecurity. Russell identified envy as one of the most destructive emotions. Envy isn't just wanting something someone else has, it's resenting them for having it. It's bitter, corrosive, and completely useless. It doesn't help you get what you want, it just makes you miserable. He argued that envy is rooted in that same toxic competition we talked about earlier. You're comparing yourself to others and feeling like you're losing. But Russell would ask, losing what? Exactly. Someone else's success doesn't diminish yours unless you define success as relative ranking. So what do you actually do with all this? First, stop obsessing over yourself. Find something outside yourself to care about: ideas, people, projects, hobbies. The goal is genuine interest, not distraction. When you're absorbed in something that matters, happiness tends to show up as a side effect. Second, cultivate real relationships, not networking, not transactional friendships. Actual affection with people who matter to you. Let yourself care about them. Let them care about you. Accept the vulnerability that comes with that. Russell believed this was non-negotiable for happiness. Third, stop competing. Define success on your own terms. Ask yourself what actually matters to you, not what would impress others, not what fits the script society handed you. Then pursue that. When you stop measuring yourself against everyone else, you stop feeling like you're constantly losing. And finally, find work that engages you, not work that exhausts you or work that's just a means to an end, but work that uses your abilities in service of something you care about. It doesn't have to be your job. It can be a side project, volunteering, creative work, anything that gives you a sense of purpose and contribution. Russell's Conquest of Happiness isn't a quick fix. It's not 10 easy steps to instant joy. It's a philosophical diagnosis backed by careful observation. Happiness, according to Russell, is what happens when you stop obsessing over yourself, engage genuinely with the world, build real connections, and contribute something meaningful. It's not about chasing happiness directly, it's about living in a way that makes happiness possible. Tomorrow I'll condense this entire framework into one 60-second insight you can apply immediately. This video was created by combining human research and scripting with AI-assisted visuals and production. For the full text of Russell's book, additional analysis, and more timeless philosophy, check the links in the description below.